Russia launched a fresh wave of overnight attacks on Ukraine, killing at least 2 people in the Kyiv region, authorities said early Monday, just hours before European leaders prepare to meet in France for critical peace talks. Air raid sirens sounded across the country shortly after midnight as Ukraine's military confirmed air defense systems were active in multiple regions. In Kyiv, a Russian strike hit a private medical facility with an active inpatient ward. The attack sparked a fire that killed 1 person and injured 3 others. Emergency services released images showing rescuers carrying victims on stretchers from the charred remains of the building. A separate pre-dawn strike hit the nearby city of Fastiv, where a man in his 70s was killed, according to regional governor Mykola Kalashnik. The bombardment triggered power outages across parts of the region. Authorities said backup systems were activated to keep water and heating supplies running as temperatures plunged to -8 degrees Celsius. The strikes came on the eve of a high-level diplomatic summit in France, where European leaders are seeking a breakthrough on a peace plan that Kyiv says is 90% complete. In preparation, security advisors from 15 countries, including Britain, France, and Germany, along with representatives from NATO and the European Union, gathered in Kyiv over the weekend. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff joined the talks virtually, Ukrainian officials said, though the discussions were overshadowed by Washington's large-scale military operation in Venezuela earlier the same day. Another preparatory meeting involving military chiefs of staff is scheduled to take place Monday. Despite renewed diplomatic momentum, Moscow and Kyiv remain deeply divided over the future of occupied territory. Russia currently controls around 20% of Ukraine and is demanding full control of the eastern Donbas region as part of any settlement. Ukraine has rejected those terms, warning that territorial concessions would embolden Moscow and fail to prevent future invasions. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry claimed its Su-34 fighter bombers struck a Ukrainian temporary deployment site using guided aerial bombs. The ministry released footage showing the aircraft taking off, carrying out the mission, and returning to base, though the date and location of the footage could not be independently verified. Ukraine's armed forces reported that over the past weekend, Russia carried out a missile attack, 67 airstrikes, and dropped 174 guided bombs on Ukrainian positions. On Monday, the Russian Defense Ministry also announced the capture of Grabovske in Sumy region. Ukraine last month accused Russia of illegally detaining around 50 residents of Grabovske. Moscow launched its full-scale offensive in February 2022, claiming Ukraine failed to uphold the Minsk agreements and insisting on neutrality and a halt to NATO expansion. Kyiv has denounced the assault as an invasion, imposing martial law and general mobilization, while Western allies responded with sweeping sanctions against Russia. As diplomacy intensifies in Europe, the violence on the ground shows no sign of easing.
President Putin told me about it. Early in the morning, he said he was attacked. It's no good. It's no good. Don't forget, the Tomahawks. I stopped the Tomahawks. I didn't want that. Because we're talking about, it's a delicate period of time. This is not the right time. It's one thing to be offensive, because they were offensive. It's another thing to attack his house. It's not the right time to do any of that, and can't do it. And I learned about it from President Putin today. I was very angry about it. What?
U.S. intelligence services that monitor that region very closely. Is there any evidence?
Well, it came out. Well, we'll find out. I mean, you're saying maybe the attack didn't take place. It's possible too, I guess. But President Putin told me this morning it did. I don't believe that strike happened.
Right. So Putin had said in that phone call to you that that strike happened. You came out and said that, and you believed Putin. There was some criticism.
There is something that happened fairly nearby, but had nothing to do with this.
Why did you believe Putin in that moment and then go say that about Ukraine?
Because nobody knew at that moment. I mean, that was the first I heard about it.
So why not?
He said that his house was attacked. We don't believe that happened, as now that we've been able to check.
Yeah.
But that was the first we ever heard about it.
Confusion, contradiction, and a sudden reversal from the White House. President Donald Trump has now dismissed claims that Ukraine attacked Russian President Vladimir Putin's residence. The comments come as the war in Ukraine grinds on and fragile ceasefire talks hang in the balance. Speaking aboard Air Force One on Sunday night, Trump said he does not believe the strike ever happened. The statement marked a sharp shift after he initially appeared to accept the Kremlin's account. Trump told reporters that at the time of the reports, nobody knew whether the information was accurate.
I don't believe that strike happened.
Right. So Putin had said in that phone call to you that that strike happened. You came out and said that, and you believed Putin. There was some criticism.
There is something that happened fairly nearby, but had nothing to do with this.
Why did you believe Putin in that moment and then go say that about Ukraine?
Because nobody knew at that moment. I mean, that was the first I heard about it.
So why not?
He said that his house was attacked. We don't believe that happened, as now that we've been able to check.
Yeah.
But that was the first we ever heard about it.
The alleged attack first surfaced last week when Russia's defense ministry released drone footage. Moscow claimed Kyiv launched a drone at Putin's residence in the Novgorod region. Russian officials said the drone was downed and that Putin was not present at the time. Ukraine swiftly denied any involvement, accusing Moscow of staging a false flag operation. Kyiv said the claim was designed to sabotage peace negotiations. Western allies echoed that skepticism, questioning whether the incident occurred at all.
During the night of December 28 to 29, 2025, the Kyiv regime launched a terrorist attack using 91 long-range unmanned aerial vehicles against the state residence of the President of the Russian Federation in the Novgorod region. All unmanned aerial vehicles were destroyed by the air defense systems of the Russian Federation's armed forces. No information has been received regarding casualties or damage from UAV debris. We would like to draw your attention to the fact that this particular action was carried out during a period of intensive negotiations between Russia and the United States concerning the settlement of the Ukrainian conflict. We want to make it clear that such reckless and irresponsible actions will certainly not be left without a response. The specific targets for retaliatory strikes and the precise timing of their execution by the Russian armed forces have now been definitively determined.
Moscow responded by hardening its negotiating position, warning the claim would affect peace talks. Trump, however, struck a cautious tone. He said he hopes for a ceasefire deal soon, but avoided committing to further sanctions on Russia. Trump cited staggering casualty figures, saying tens of thousands of soldiers are dying each month. He said discussions on sanctions happen constantly, but stressed diplomacy remains his priority. The controversy comes at a critical moment, as Russia and Ukraine are working toward a ceasefire nearly 4 years into a devastating conflict. Meanwhile, the European leaders are expected to meet in France on Tuesday to advance a US-backed ceasefire proposal. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the plan is 90% ready, but territorial disputes over land seized in the war remain the core obstacle.
We had many meetings in Europe and the United States. Today, there are 18 national security advisors in Ukraine. And for us, it was an important moment and a point from which we will start moving even faster. And I think that on the diplomatic track, I think you have all seen this over the last month and a half. And why are we moving even faster now? Because we have shared all the documents with all the advisors, the package of documents that we have, both those that are complete and those that are still being finalized. We expect that this further work will now take place in the capitals of European countries, as well as Canada, Japan, and other representatives of the Coalition of the Willing. All of this will be refined during our meetings, and throughout January, we are not allocating a great deal of time for this process. I believe it is very important for us to formalize our steps in some form of declaration, because the security guarantees, the document, will be ratified by the parliaments of the countries participating in the Coalition of the Willing. I very much hope that we will be able to finalize certain elements during this meeting. In principle, this is the #1 task, to finalize the document on security guarantees for the Coalition of the Willing, to prepare it as one of the bases for discussion with the United States of America and President Trump. This is the document that is ready from the Europeans.